Hi, and welcome to another Notion how-to. This time we'll be looking at how to make an action priority matrix. This is a matrix that helps you prioritize your tasks based on the balance of their impact and their effort. This is similar to an Eisenhower matrix that looks at tasks based on their importance and their urgency. If you want to know how to make an Eisenhower matrix, you can check out my other video, which I'll link in the description, on exactly that. I found this matrix, for me at least, is slightly more helpful because what we end up with is effectively a prompt for what exactly you should be doing with each task. To explain what I mean, let's have a look at exactly what the categories are. As I mentioned earlier, the two variables in this matrix are impact and effort. Now, they can either be set to high or low. Depending on the combination of those, we have four potential outcomes that tell you what to do with that action. If the impact is high and the effort is low, we are told to schedule the task. If the impact is high and the effort is also high, we are told to make this task a priority. If the impact is low and the effort is high, then this is probably a task we can put on the backlog until the impact increases or until we have a bit of spare capacity to actually look at this task, considering that it is high effort. Now, for tasks where both the impact and the effort are low, we have the option to batch those. So I quite like these categories because, one, being forced to think about the impact and effort of a task up front already gives you some clarity about the task that is sometimes hard to get if you just add tasks to your task manager and don't actually prioritize them, which is something that I'm definitely guilty of sometimes unless I kind of create these systems. Secondly, the outcome of this matrix is an action rather than just a categorization such as P1 to P4 or important and urgent. It's telling you exactly what you need to do with the task. So the task is really impactful and really high effort. You know right then and there, it's probably not something you can tackle quickly, so you should schedule some time or times to get it done. That might mean scheduling time in to actually really think about the task in detail, maybe to break it down into smaller tasks that aren't necessarily high effort. If the task is high impact and low effort, you should probably just get it done now so it's out of the way. These would be the tasks I like to get done kind of first thing in the day. I like to swallow the frog when I plan my day, which is a productivity technique I'll link to in the description. And if it's low impact and high effort, this is stuff like clearing tech debt, updating standard operating procedures, other operational and strategic tasks I found quite often fall into this bracket because it's hard to kind of bring to life the impact of those things, especially in the short term, but they are things that should be done. Then I put them on the backlog, ready to be considered when you've got a bit of breathing room. And maybe when you're thinking more strategically, sometimes the impact can start to actually feel higher than it did when you weren't. And then finally, we have tasks that are low impact and low effort. So this is most akin to the delegate category you often see in prioritization matrices. However, as someone that doesn't work in a team at the moment, a delegate category doesn't really make sense to me. So this is an interesting alternative, which I really like, which is to call them batch tasks. Then I schedule some time later in the day or later in the week to just get through as many of these small batch tasks as possible. I think this also makes more sense than an action priority matrix, as delegating in this instance wouldn't necessarily help the problem, but it could be an alternative for you if you work in a team. Okay, so how do we make this matrix? So to start with, we have a simple project manager with some projects here and associated tasks, which we can view in a bit more detail down here in the tasks section. So firstly, we want to add a select property, and we'll call it impact, and give it an icon. And we want to add options for high and low. Now I'm just going to organize these, and I'm going to change the color just to make things a bit more neat. And then we can go ahead and duplicate this and change the name to effort and change the icon. Great. So now we have a variable to set the impact and a variable to set the effort. So let's go through and add some in. Great. So now we have impact and effort estimated for each of our tasks. The next variable we want to create will be the prioritization formula. So this is a formula, and we'll call it prioritization. So this will be a formula where we use Notion's new formula layout to create an ifs statement. So previously, to do this, we would have needed to nest multiple if statements, which can get quite complicated, if nothing else, just visually. Using ifs, we can create a formula that will review the impact and effort variables and then provide a categorization like we looked at earlier. So we want to call up the ifs function in the Notion formula editor just by typing ifs. As you can see, we have the ifs function come up here, and you can see that the way this works is instead of having to nest if statements, you can type in a condition, whether it's true or false, and then you can repeat that over and over again for multiple conditions and multiple ifs, finishing off with an else function. We can use Shift and Enter to start a new line for each if statement, just to keep things neat. And now what we want to do is call up the impact variable and say that if it is equal to high, and if the effort variable is equal to, let's just start with high as well, then the if true for that will be we need to schedule this task. But we kind of want to format this just so it looks nice and neat, and I think it's useful to have color coding for things like this. So we'll call up the style function by typing .style, and then within the brackets you have different options for how you can alter the style. So in this example here, they've made the word Notion bold by typing in B, and they've underlined it by typing in U, all separated by commas. What I want to do is I want to make this look like code. So I'm going to type in C, and then I'm going to make scheduling yellow. Okay, I'll just close off the brackets there and type another comma to show that I'm ready for the next line in this if statement. So I'm just going to go through and quickly fill out the entire thing, and then we can discuss the formula as a whole. So now we can immediately see that we have one task in each category. We have a schedule, a priority, a backlog, and a batch. One quick thing I want to point out is the else part of this if statement here is if none of these things are true, so the impact is neither high nor low and the effort is neither high nor low, we will get a prompt to categorize the specific task. So this is just a way of reminding us if we haven't actually set the impact and effort that we need to do so. Now let's just add a new task to make sure that that's working. And we can see here that it tells us to categorize it. Now I will include this bit of code in the description below in case you want to use it yourself. And if you want this entire template, then there will be a link to do that in the description as well. One useful thing you can do now that you have these categorizations, aside from making a matrix, is to make different database views based on them. So you could just copy this database view and call it priority and set a filter on prioritization to only look at tasks that are priority. That way, on any given day, you can kind of quickly come in and see what other tasks that absolutely need to be done. You can do that for each of the other categorizations, and that can be really helpful. Schedule and priority obviously are helpful for planning your day and knowing what you need to do straight away. And then backlog and batch tasks are often worth looking at kind of towards the end of the week or at the beginning of a new week when you're planning how you're going to organize your days. Let's use all of this information to create a matrix. We'll start by making a call out. And we're going to set these up in a 2x2 grid with one for each category. So I'm going to title this one priority. And I'll make it red to match the color that we had in the categorization. And then what we're going to do is add a database view for a table for tasks. We want to use overall here. We want to filter on priority. And actually we'll turn this into a gallery view. And then now we just want to drop this into the callout box. So I'll go ahead and recreate this in a 2x2 grid for each of the different categories we have. So here we have our action priority matrix. Now you can easily see all of your tasks for each category. Now I like to have one of these for each of my product pages so I can see what I need to do for each individual project. You can do this by adding a project filter and replicating the steps to make a new project. So I'll just quickly show you what that looks like. Okay, so now we have two action priority matrices, one for project 1 using the filter here, and then one for project 2, which has been filtered on the right project here. And I just duplicated that and changed the filter to make this. So I hope this video was useful and that you enjoy experimenting with Notion and with task prioritization. If you did like the video, please like and subscribe.